Okay guys, so once you create your Trello account, you're going to see this main homepage. This is where all of your boards will be. On the left side, you're going to see there are some templates, and this is where I would recommend starting. Most simple, it's under project management, and then it's called Simple Project Board. You just click use template and then hit create. So this is your board. Basically, this is like your workspace. But let's say you want to change the background. You just go to show menu, change background. Okay, so these lists, they basically represent your workflow, and each list has cards. And so each card is kind of like a task. You can fill up that card with all of the information related to that task. Okay, so let's say you want to just make some changes to this. So let's change the title. You just click on it and you make your changes. If you want to add a card, you just hit add a card, enter. If you want to add a list, go add a list. There you go, enter. And then you can kind of like move them wherever you want them. So when you add a card, you can fill it up with all of the information you need. If you click on this little icon, it's going to give you a few shortcuts. If you click on open card, this is where the good stuff is. So here you can add a description, but my favorite part is the activity. This is kind of like an ongoing list of comments. So you can go back and you can kind of like react to these comments. So let's say that this is done. So I'm going to put a thumbs up. Now, let's say you want to add like a checklist. So you can title it whatever you want and then hit add. So it gives it this little progress bar. If you click over here and you look at that card, you'll see that there's a checklist and you're done with 2 out of 4. You'll also see a number 3 next to comments. That means that there's 3 comments. So the idea is that you take these cards and then you move them through your workflow as you work on them. Another option is to make lists for each client. So let's say we have a list for Bob, John, and Amy. Now let's say I need to work on Bob's podcast. So I would automatically move it to do. But wait, how am I going to remember that that is for Bob? So if you go to show menu, more, and labels, this is going to pull up your labels by default. The best part about it is you can customize this. So if I want to change green and give it a name, I'll just hit that and type in Bob. It's important that you remember where they're assigned. So Bob's going to be 1. He's the first one. John will be 2, Amy will be 3. I want to label this as Bob. I'm just going to hover over it and I'm going to push the number 1 on my keyboard. I want to remember this is John, so I'm going to hit 2. He was the number 2 spot. Now, if I don't want these names to show, you could just click on it. You will have to remember these colors, but there's also a workaround to that. So you can hover over the card and type the letter L. It's going to pull up all of your labels, or you can add a card, change the cover, and Bob's color is green, so I'm going to hit green, use this one, click out of it, and here you go. Here's a little card. It's going to help you remember that Bob is green. Now, let's say you're working on this board with your client and you want to invite them to it. You just go to invite, you type their email address in, it'll send them an invitation. So then you can assign a specific card to a person. So if you want to assign it to yourself, you just hover over it and hit the space bar. You're going to see your initials there. If you want to take it off from yourself, hit the space bar again. If you want to assign it to someone else, hit the letter A, and it's going to come up with the different members. If you want to remove it, just hit the letter A again, and you would unclick their name. And let's say you only want to see the cards that are assigned to you. Hit the letter Q. It's going to take everything else away and only your cards. To get everything back, you just hit the letter Q again. Now, let's say you want to put a due date on this podcast. So you hover over it, hit the letter D, and it's going to pull up the calendar. You can set a date, you can set a reminder, and then you would just save it. If you want to remove it, you just do the same thing, hit the letter D, and you could just hit remove. Now, let's say this podcast card, you are working on it right now, and then you're like, you know what, I no longer need to work on this anymore. You can either move it to like a done list, or you can just completely archive it. So you would just hover over and hit C. It's gone. Now, if you want to find it in your archived list, you would go here, you would go to more, archived items, and here it is, podcast. And you can send it right back to your board. You can actually email your board and it will add a card for you. So like, let's say you're on a call with a client and you don't have your Trello handy. You could just pull up your email and send yourself a note and it will literally add a card. You would go to show menu, you would go to email to board settings, and this right here, this is your Trello board email. So you can of course customize this. You can decide where you want that new card to be. I wanted to show you mine really quickly, how I use mine for time blocking. I have daily lists and then I have like a breakdown of how my day goes. My clients have a color. So for example, if you look at my Monday list, you'll see from 8:30 to 8:45, I'm working with this client and I am checking her email. It's also helpful to use your list for notes. So for example, for this client here, I have all of my meeting notes. I also have what I call working notes. So I know like how he wants things done. And here are some of the shortcuts I use. So I hope this can help you out. Thanks for watching.